In this documentary, we speak to 10 individuals from Australia who claim to have eyewitness accounts of the Yowie, otherwise known as Bigfoot or Sasquatch. We visit the Blue Mountains, the hotspot for Yowie sightings down under, and ask a select number of people to give their on-camera testimonies. So take a hike with us along the mountain path as we follow the footprints left behind by Bigfoot Down Under. Brooke, 18 years old, was on a 14-day scout camp at Clifford Park in a place called Jamboree. Whilst escorting one of the juniors to the bathroom in the middle of the night, Brooke claims to have had a terrifying encounter with a Yowie. It disturbed her enough to bring her to tears, and she still has flashbacks to this day.
Yeah, so I used to do Australian Scouts from when I was, I think I was like 12 until I was 14, and we went on this camp to prepare some kids to go on Jamboree because they need a certain number of nights away from home in order to be able to go on Jamboree, which is like a 16-day camp. And so I was one of the older scouts going on that camp, and we were going to Clifford Park, which I'd been to like a million times before. Totally normal, just big bushland. And so we all like got in the cars to go, and we're all really excited. And in the car, there was loads of chatter. It was just normal, everything was fine. And then we got there, we set up, it was normal, I'd done this 1,000 times. And then we were setting up camp, it was kind of heading into like the late evening. And we're all getting a bit tired. The mood was kind of setting into like, oh my God, we're gonna be here for 4 days straight. What are we gonna do? And then I was looking after this younger girl, Amy. So I was 14 and Amy was probably about 12. So she'd kind of just moved up from Cubs, which is the level below Scouts. And she'd been asked if she could go in my tent with me because it was one of her longest camps that she'd done. So I agreed, obviously. And then we were kind of heading off to bed. Everyone was saying goodnight. It was getting dark. And then Amy wanted to go to the bathroom. And I wasn't going to let her go alone because there's not many lights, you've got to take your own torch, and didn't want her to get lost because it was her first time on this camp. So we decided to not tell the leaders that we were going to go to the bathroom because we didn't want to wake everybody up. So we were walking and we were just chatting, and then I decided to wait under the closest street lamp for her, and she went into the bathroom because there's not really any light, so I gave her my torch. And I was waiting under the light, and it was starting to she was taking a bit longer than you'd expect, someone going to the toilet in the middle of the night. And so I thought, I should probably go check on her. So I went round to the toilet block, and she wasn't in there. And I was like, where'd she go? So I called out her name once or twice, and then I was like, oh, maybe we crossed paths but we didn't see each other. So I went back to the street lamp, and just the torch was there on the ground. And that's when I started to get quite distressed because, I've just lost a 12-year-old girl in the woods. And so I picked up the torch and I went back to the toilet, retrace your steps. She still wasn't there. And so I started shining my torch into the bush and calling out her name. And I couldn't find her. And just before I went back to look to the light, I shone the torch out. And I saw these eyes staring back at me, and I was like, no, it's not there. So I just turned away and I ran back to the light, and I was just gonna wait for her. I was gonna wait for her. I don't care how long I had to wait. And I just kept hearing this rustling behind me, and I was like, oh, what is she doing? So I was calling out her name, and then she didn't come back, and then I shone the torch out again, and then the eyes were there again. And it wasn't her because she's 12 years old. They were up higher. And there was when you see your cat at home and you shine the car headlights on them and their eyes reflect, it was like that, but they were 6 feet tall. And I was like, what is that thing? Oh my God. And I ran back to the camp, and Amy was there. She was there. And I was having a go at her because I was you scared the crap out of me. What were you thinking? And she just thought that she would head back and not bother me, and she went a long way around or something, and I was so mad at her. And then I told her what I saw, and she didn't believe me. Right? So I thought, all right, it's fine. We'll just all go back to bed. It's fine. It was fine. And then I was just lying in bed looking up at the roof of the tent, and I couldn't sleep, and Amy was sleeping, sound asleep next to me, not knowing. And then, you know, I just wanted like closure so I could go to sleep. So I went outside the tent just to see if I could see anything. And I just sat outside the tent facing towards the bush, just to reassure myself that there wasn't going to be anything there. But there was something there. And like, the eyes, you could only see them every couple of seconds, like it wasn't like a constant thing. But they were there, and then I thought, should I wake someone up? And I don't know. And then I thought, well, what if I leave? Will it come closer? And I just didn't know what to do. And I went back into the tent, and I zipped it up, and I went in my sleeping bag, and I just tried to just forget about the whole thing, just go to sleep. And it just, I felt something shake the tent. And I woke Amy up, and she could see it too, and so I thought, oh, I'm not going crazy if she can see it as well. And then something was shaking the outside of the tent, and we just screamed, and we woke everybody up. But then everyone came over, and there was nothing there. You know, and the next morning, we got told off. We were waking everybody up, but I know I saw something. But no one believed me. Yeah.
Bralen, 65 years old, was prospecting in a place called Matlock in Warburton, Victoria. Whilst camping during snow season, heard movements outside his tent. When he decided to investigate, got the surprise of his life to find an actual Yowie circling his campsite.
Well, I decided to go prospecting, and I picked Matlock, which is above Warburton. Oh, a fair way up. So I took a tent and my pan and whatever, and I'd sort of gone past this spot. Anyway, I got there, and I was in a moke, a soft-top moke. And I'll tell you why that was a problem. And so there's a little parking spot, and there was a sluice track going down there. I thought, oh, that's all right. Anyway, I got there about 4 o'clock. Anyway, I looked up at the sky, and it looked like it was coming down to meet me. I thought, geez, it's going to snow. Anyway, half an hour later it snowed, and it didn't stop. Anyway, I tried to light a fire. It was too cold to light a fire. Hopped in the tent, into the sleeping bag, and then I hear footsteps around the tent. Oh God, what's this? And it was still sort of light. So I opened the tent a bit, and here's this thing. Oh, I'm going, I'm dreaming. I was sober. I hadn't even. The beer wasn't even. Anyway, it ran off into the bush, and it was about 6 foot bloody tall, and bloody hairy thing. And I thought, oh, well, I better go get up and try and make myself a cup of tea. And I couldn't get the fire going, and I thought, oh, I'll have a hot beer. And I was sitting there, and I could hear this bloody thing crashing through the thing. And I thought, what am I going to do here? Well, I bugger off. And I couldn't go into my car because wouldn't have given me anything. Neither was the tent. So I'm sitting there having a beer and just looked around. There's this hairy thing looking out of the bloody bushes at me. I'm going, what the hell is this? So I said, go away. Just looked at me. So I'm sitting there trying to drink the beer. I thought, well, I'd make a runner for it. And I thought, oh no, it looks all right, but anyway. So that was my first encounter, and when I went, and it's still snowing, I'm looking around, and there's footprints all around the tent. And they're like huge bloody feet. Oh. Well, I thought I'll go and have a bit of a sleep. Anyway, woke up again and there's someone pushing on the bloody tent. So I thought, well, can he up? And I thought, oh, I'll get me torch and poke it out there. And there's this bloody thing standing outside the tent. I'll never forget that one.
Claudia, 24 years old, was camping with her mother at Phillip Island. In the middle of the night and needing to go to the bathroom, she strode into the bushland and came face to face with a Yowie. She claims that the encounter had a strange, calming effect on her, much unlike what she had been told as a child, to be wary of this type of potentially dangerous creature.
All right, well, I was a kid. I must have been about, 7 or so. And I was living with my mum, and she was a single mum. And we went camping around Phillip Island, I think. And I was scared. It was like the middle of the bush, and it was midnight, and I needed to pee. No, I didn't need to pee, sorry. My mum wanted to go for a bushwalk at midnight for some reason. And so we're walking around, and I'm terrified because I'm hearing all these noises. I'm like, oh God, Mum. And my mum's freaking out too because she'd just watched the Blair Witch Project. So she's like being, oh, it's okay, honey. Oh my God, oh my God. So we're walking around, and my mum went ahead of me for some reason. And I remember I was walking, and I could just see this shadow, like this human shadow, but it was bigger than a human. It was like a human shape, but it was a lot larger, and it was making this noise that I hadn't heard before. And it just stopped, and it looked at me, and I looked at it, and I wasn't scared. I wasn't scared. I was scared for everything else, but when I saw that, it was just like, it's not going to hurt me, whatever this thing is. It wasn't a human at all. Yeah, like I remember when I was a kid, I used to read these Aboriginal stories. And in one of the stories, there was a Yowie-like creature. I forgot the name, but it used to take Aboriginal children and eat them. Yeah, I forgot the name completely. It was a spirit or something, and so I've always sort of put that image to that creature in a way. Yeah, and I remember, and then after that, my mum came back. I think she'd seen a koala or something. My mum's nuts like that. And I was like, Mum, I saw something. And she's freaking out. She's like, you saw nothing, you saw nothing, you saw nothing. We're not talking about it. And yeah, then we went back to camp. And yeah, that happened a long time ago, but that would be my story.
Daniel, 27 years old, was on a school trip to the Blue Mountains to stay in a snow village. After a grueling all-day hike, he decided to have an early night, much to the protest of his peers. Whilst alone in his bunk bed, had his first encounter with a local Yowie.
Well, I'll start with where I was. It all started when I went for this school trip. And it wasn't a mandatory trip. It was probably year 9, year 10. And we had to pick whether we wanted to do it. So only a handful of kids went to this camp, probably 5 or 6, and there was 3 different schools that did it. And we had to take a 3-hour train from like Melbourne all the way out to the border of New South Wales and Victoria. And then from there we caught a bus that took us about half an hour, and we were in this little snow village, a skiing village and that. And it was during the summer, so there was no snow, barely anybody was there. It was like, the population was like 30 people during the summer, and it like boomed to like a couple thousand during the winter because of the snow. And then from there we hiked. It was about 26 Ks, 6 or 7 Ks a day. And so we're hiking to where we were going to be camping. So we camped along the way. And it was only 6 or 7 Ks, but it took the whole day to do that because you're going up a mountain, down a mountain. And the location that we actually camped at was, like, the final camp was about 10 Ks from any kind of settlement. There wasn't any roads for about 5 Ks. And, like, it was the middle of nowhere in New South Wales. There was toilets, there was no electricity. Toilets didn't even have a door on them, they were out in the middle of nowhere. Lighting was campfire. We had to farm when we were there. All the meat came from livestock. We actually killed chickens and stuff like that. It was supposed to be an experience, to experience like living out in the middle of nowhere. And I think like everything went well. Did all these activities out there, and everything was interesting. We slept in this kind of dorm room where it's pretty much 18 people to one building, and they were bunk beds. And I remember, I think it was the second or third night we're actually at the event. I had been stung by 2 bees while farming, and I was dead tired, and I decided I'm going to go to bed early. And everyone had a go at me for it. But I think it was like 7, 8 o'clock, we were sitting around the fire. I'm like, I'm going to call it a night. And I remember walking back to the kind of bunkhouse, and like there was like nothing. It's just quiet. It's about 500, 600 meter walk. There was nothing there. And get into the bunkhouse and got into my sleeping bag, and I was probably there for about half an hour. And then like it was pitch black. Can't see anything. I hear this creaking and this groaning and kind of footsteps. And I go, who's there? Because I'm like, who else has come to bed early? And there was no response at all. And there was this kind of, I don't know, it's like not grunting or thing, but it's hard to describe. It was more like, in between like a grunting and a groan. And there was like some more footsteps. And I go, like, who's there? I go, stop being an idiot, like, stop messing around. And no response. And it's like that feeling you always have someone's watching you. Like, I'm pretty sure everyone's had it at some point where there's someone watching you, and there was no sound. And I was, you know, and I kind of tricked myself into this false sense of security. And I'm like, and I remember I'm like, I'm gonna call you Jeff. I'm like, and it was this thing, I was like, oh yeah, it's, and I remember I was like, I probably sat there for like 20 minutes still and didn't move. I was just like, okay, there's something in the room with me and it's not moving, because you didn't hear the footsteps go out. And, you know, you listen for everything, like the shuffle, like the leaves and stuff like that. And then I hear people coming, and, you know, they go to enter the room and they're like, I'm like, I called out. I'm like, hello, are you there? And they were like, oh, you're still awake? I go, yeah, it's just me and Jeff. And they're like, who's Jeff? I go, I'm not sure. Something. And then there was this noise, and they all bolted, and they just left me there. And I think it was a good another half an hour. And I think because I was just tired, I passed out. Woke up the next morning, and everybody was, everyone actually, they came back and eventually went to bed. I think one of the camp overseers forced them to go to bed. And coming out of the bedroom and stuff like that, and this kind of like bunkhouse, you know, talking to everybody, I'm like, what was it? I asked them, what was it? And they're like, we don't know. Like, we're like, we heard noises, we got out of there, you know? And we're like, they go into me, we don't know how you were in there for so long. I go, I couldn't move. I just sat there. I was like, that's Jeff. Jeff is okay, he's normal. And we found a dead snake about 3 or 4 meters from the bunkhouse, where there was like barbed wire, and the barbed wire was mangled and there was a dead snake. And, you know, we were told, oh, it was a boar. But they told us it was a boar or something, you know, boar killed the snake or must have come in and snuffled around. But last I checked, boars don't step with feet. So, and they don't stand still for that long. Yeah, so that's my story.
Shannon, 21 years old, was with her friends making a road trip to the Blue Mountains. They became lost, and after a heated discussion heard a foreign voice emerge from the bushland behind them. Following this, she claims to have come face to face with a very normal, passive-like Yowie. After conversing with the creature, they learned that it was, ironically, quite fond of mushroom tea.
Well, this story kind of goes like this. Me and my best friend, we were doing a little roadie, so we were road tripping up the country, and then we stopped off to go for a bushwalk, right? We were like, let's take a break, let's go see the scenery, you know. And so we got out and we trotted on into some random bush somewhere, and we're walking through, and then I was kind of over it at this point. I was like, I don't really want to get lost, you know, but I knew my way, like I knew my direction. And I was like, okay, like, let's go, like, we're leaving this way. And then she's like, no, like, it's this way. And then we're like tossing and turning, and I'm looking at her being like, are you just playing with me right now? Like, and I was like, no, it's this way. And then she's, no, it's this way. And I'm just like so torn. I'm like, I'm trying to follow my gut feeling here, right? And then, so we're going back and forth at each other, you know, and then all of a sudden, like, we hear this voice, and it just comes out, and it's this big, hairy man, and it was terrifying at first. And he's like, sorry guys, like, I just overheard, but the exit's totally this way. And we're just stumped, we're just like shook that it was a Yowie, like, seriously. We saw it with our own eyes. And first we were just like stumbling over our words, like, hello, okay, yeah, thanks. But then we just kind of got chatting with him. And he was a really nice guy. Like, I mean, yeah, he looked different, you know, but he was great. He was telling us a bit of his background, and, you know, he loves drinking mushroom tea in the bush, like, that's what he's all about. Bit of a tripper as well, you know. But yeah, he was just like really lovely, really sweet guy, and he told us the right way out, and yeah, I'm really grateful for that.
Tom, 18 years old, hailing from the Blue Mountains, went to visit his cousin's place on New Year's Eve. They decided to go hunting in the normal, routine spot. Along the journey, Tom heard a terrifying growl, and after further investigation, had his first ever sighting of a Yowie up close.
All right, so I live in the country, like I live out in the countryside out of the city. That's where, you know, my family prefer, always grown up in the country. Yeah, we, at my old place that I've now moved away from, we had a cousin that lived around the corner, and he had just built a brand new house, like brand spanking new, and he lived right beside this little forest preserve. So we went around there for, I think it was actually a New Year's Eve party, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, so we went around there. They own just a shooting rifle, and we're just, you know, shooting down the yard just for fun. And the dad of my friend, who's my cousin, said, why don't you take Tom down around to the forest preserve to go hunting. So this is my first time hunting. Yeah, so they took me across the road, and it was me, my cousin, my dad and his dad. So we all went for a hunting trip. And we'll just go around the forest preserve, you know, saw a couple of rabbits, just a normal classic hunting trip. And I went around the corner, just broke off from the group just to go to the toilet around behind a tree. And so I went to go behind the tree, and I heard, like, it was almost like a dog growl, like a real snarly, like deep dog growl. Like, it was unlike anything I've ever heard. Like, I really freaked out, like it scared the crap out of me. And, you know, I was having a look around, you know, where it was or what it was, because I had no idea what was going on. You know, I thought maybe my dad was playing a prank on me or something. And I looked around, and I saw this kind of like, it was big and it was grey, so I knew, like, from the colour that it wasn't a fox, because I initially thought it was a fox or like a wild dog or something. And it was only for like a quick glance. I got a quick glance of it kind of jumping over like a fallen down log and going off into the bushes. But its front arms were huge, like the front arms coming over the log to get away. They were massive, and they were grey and black and fluffy, and, you know, I freaked out. You know, I kind of ran over to my dad. I was like, "Hey, Dad, you really need to check this out." Like, I was really scared. But yeah, it was a lot. It was probably like, I reckon twice the size of maybe, like, say, it was maybe not twice the size, but a bit bigger than a gorilla, I would say, around about, you know, normal sized gorilla. But like its arms and legs were shaped like a gorilla would. And I didn't see it like stand upright or anything, but, you know, what I saw was like that kind of shape. Like, I knew it wasn't a dog, or it wasn't fox or anything. And I went to tell my dad and everybody that we're hunting with, and, you know, by the time I got to them, it was already gone. But yeah, it was just scary. Yeah, and that's the last I saw of it. That was my experience, yeah.
Lynne, 36 years old, was on holidays taking a road trip around Australia. Whilst staying at a place called Daly Waters in the Northern Territory, was taking a shower one night and believes she saw a Yowie outside her bathroom window. The shocking memory has stayed with her to this day.
Okay, so this is a part of my experience when I went on holiday. This was in 2015. I went on a road trip throughout all of Australia, and I had a coach tour, so we had left Cooper PD. We were driving up north, so through South Australia, and then we came to the Northern Territory. I saw Uluru, I think Katherine, Darwin, and then after the Northern Territory, we started to head west, into Queensland. So on the way there, there was one stop, which was called Daly Waters. I think it's Daly Waters. And so this is a remote town in the middle of nowhere, and the accommodation was just like, little cabins sort of strewn everywhere. Anyway, prior to this road trip, I don't know, in terms of preparation, I thought I'd watch things like Wolf Creek, and probably not the best things. I mean, I don't know, it was a bit silly and foolish on my part, but I just thought it would be, something that, it's informative, like sort of just make me aware and alert. So I guess staying in Daly Creek, there was one night I experienced something a bit unusual, a little bit creepy. So basically I was in the shower at that time, and there's one window somewhere looking out, but it was like frosted glass. So it's not something that someone looking outside could necessarily see, but you could sort of make out shapes and things like that. So I was in the shower, and everything sort of went well, and then I heard this bizarre, this scratching on glass. Like, it was very faint at first, and I just brushed it off and I thought, oh, maybe it's just branches or some tree outside and things like that. And then I heard it like a little bit more vividly, and then I kind of froze, and then I thought, okay, I'll just stop what I'm doing and just listen and make sure it's not me who's actually doing it, that there is something outside the window. So I froze, and I was just just very alert then to hear for that sound again. And I did hear it, and I just glanced towards the window, and I it wasn't completely night, it was say like dusk. So you could sort of see some light, and darkness contrast. So I could sort of see some weird shapes moving about, like, I couldn't even make it out clearly. But at that moment, I just panicked. I didn't know if it was someone looking in or doing something, and I just, I left the shower running, and I just quietly got out. I sort of dressed a little bit, but I was curious, but I was a little bit scared as well. My roommate was sleeping, and then I went out and looked around the cabin. I didn't see anything there. I saw what looked like fur or like, I don't know, like brown little things all stuck on like a low-hanging bush that was below the window. And I saw something that, it wasn't very strong scratch marks, but it looked like some indentations. Yeah, I didn't see anything, but that was enough for me. I just went back in. And yeah, I don't know what it was. I'm pretty sure that maybe there's some urban myths around the Northern Territory, but yeah, I never asked anyone about it.
So we're here in Australia, and this place is really sort of creepy. So then you can hear like noises, heavy breathing. This person comes out of nowhere. They're really scary. There's darkness all around you. And all you can hear is that.
Thon, 33 years old, was staying at a friend's property in South Queensland during flood season. A Yowie was believed to have made regular appearances in the area. Thon's skepticism was shut down completely when he came face to face with one in the middle of the night.
I'd say it was way back like 2 years ago, when they happened sometime in April 2017, where the like flooding and water was happening in the south of Queensland. And at my mate's parents, they have the property up there. And I heard a lot about this because my mate keeps saying about that thing. Yeah, and guess what, the family, I mean, not family, it's like his parents was seen too many times, and then even they have the YouTube channel for that. And one day, me and my mate, we was hitting in the pub, and then I see his phone ring, and it like say, "Daddy calling," and I just make a joke, I'm like, "Ooh, Daddy calling, what's going on there?" And then yeah, he picked up the phone, he went out for a little bit, and he came back in, and then he told me that like he had in his property, his parent property, have situation with the flood and everything. So then, yeah, we decided to go up there on the next day. And then we're sitting on the fly and we're talking about his thing going on with the dad said and how bad it was. And yeah, and then also we're talking about the Yowie, I think what they call. Yeah, and he tell me a bit about that. I'm like, that is kind of interesting. So when we get to his house, and like, because where we're sleeping and his house is separate, so we like 10 or 15 meters, we sleep in the shed. It's like bunk bed, and yeah, and his parents stay in the actual house. And then yeah, there's no toilet. There's like the story is like kind of funny, because in the shed it doesn't have a toilet or something. And then when you need a toilet, you have to go to the big house. I call it the big house. At the middle of the night, all I have is just like the flashlight, and then that type of flashlight that don't have a battery. So when you do use the flashlight, you have to check it like that. And I was laying in bed because I have to charge the flashlight. I keep checking in bed and like trying to activate it. But it turned out my friend, he was on the bunk bed, he can feel everything. He said, "Whatever you do, can you please stop?" And I was like, "What are you talking about? I'm using the flashlight, I'm checking it." And he said, "Yeah, whatever you do, I don't want to think about that, but it sounds sloppy." And I'm like, "You man." And then I make a joke with him, like, "Oh, okay, he might think I'm doing that." And I'm like, "All right, why don't you come down here and help me with it?" And he's just like, no way. And then like, yeah, I have to explain what's going on because I really need a toilet. And then when we walk there, from the shed to the house, it's like very dark with no lights at all, so I have to use that. And yeah, and then I tell him, and he came down, like, okay, we go up together. But I don't know, it's just me. Even if thinking of like, this thing not real, it's not gonna happen. But it's always happened, always come up and make me feel like, she's like, oh, that's it real. Yeah, went back to that and we walk out, we open the door, walk out from the shed. and there was like quiet, like middle of nowhere, it's quiet and dark. Then what we had only one torch, one flashlight, a torch. And we walked, like, I think it's about like 2 or 3 minutes, because we walked slow, and we heard like sound something like on the other side, and you know, standing still, like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And as my friend, he already knows what's going on there, and he's just like he's starting to touch my back like gently, and then he he went up on my shoulder, he grabbed my shirt, and I'm like, oh, should I get? And that's how I get goosebumps everywhere. Like, oh my God, what is this? What's this? And I decided to the torch, like, you know, I'm trying to torch into the spot that where that thing, and I was like, damn, that big hairy man there was standing and looking at us. And like, at that time I just like, no, I speechless. I cannot say anything. And he was he was staring at us, and we were staring at him. I'm not sure who was scaring of who. We just stare for, I think it's the 1 or 2 seconds. It feels like forever when you're standing there and have that feeling. It's like, wow. And then he walks away, and then we just like ran into the house, and that's it. And like, oh, this is crazy.
Catherine, 44 years old, was visiting friends in Queensland who were looking to buy a property near the Brisbane River. They were all scared off the premises very quickly after she heard a vicious growling noise in the bushes, when after closer inspection, turned out to be a Yowie standing right before her in broad daylight.
All right, so this all goes back to 2012, and I was visiting some friends in Queensland, and one of my hobbies is real estate, and they were looking at finding a property. So I said, oh, can I come with you and have a look? And they said, yeah. So we ended up down at Mount Crosby, which is a bit north of Ipswich, and there's this beautiful road that just heads down to the bushes, down near the Mount Crosby Recreational Reserve, and there was this beautiful house down there. So off we went on a Saturday, went down to the open for inspection, had a look around the house, beautiful pool, and I thought, wow, this is fantastic. Anyway, so my friends are having a bit of a chat to the real estate agent, and I thought, well, this isn't really my part of the conversation, you know, sort of that too many people in the one place. So I thought I'll go for a walk down in the gardens, down into the bush area and have a look. So I headed on down there, and walking on down, I'm walking further and further down towards the Brisbane River, and I saw something like a brown kind of, how would I describe it? The best way I could describe it looked like like that character Grug from that story, but it wasn't something that was small like that. It was something that seemed to be hunched over. And I watched it for a little while, and I couldn't quite see properly. I thought, oh, geez, you know, I should have, you know, brought my glasses, would have been able to see a bit better. And I was sort of peering at it and couldn't see what it was. And I thought, oh, my imagination, walked off. Having a look around some of the other gardens, and all of a sudden I heard this weird sort of noise. It was like a kind of thing, something I hadn't heard before. And I turned back to where I was looking, and this sort of brown, how would I describe it? I don't want it to sound like someone in a gorilla costume, because that's not what it was. It was something that was really sort of brown, sort of longish hair, and it was sort of up on its haunches. It wasn't a bear, it wasn't a kangaroo, it was just something really, really unique. And it sort of ambled off into these bushes. And I thought, Jesus, Catherine, you know, what have you been doing lately? Did you have a late night? You know, what is it? I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel worried about it. It just seemed something really, really weird. Anyway, went back to my friends. They'd finished talking to the real estate agent, and we headed back. And on the way back, I said to my friends, oh, you know, while I was down there was this weird brown thing. What do you have in Queensland that's weird and brown and looks like, you know, sort of a half kangaroo, half bear thing? And my friend turned to me, he had these huge eyes, and he said, shit, did you see something like that? And I went, yeah, I think so. I mean, I might have been wrong, didn't have my glasses, but, you know, sounds like that. And he said, I reckon there was a Yowie. And I said, oh, bullshit. I don't think so. And he was really, really shocked. It was like, you know, I'd sort of smacked him across the face. And didn't really think much more of it. And, you know, spent the rest of the day with my friends, headed off back to my hotel and rang them the next day. And I said, well, what do you think about the property? Are you going to go ahead and buy it? And he said, no, not after what you saw. So yeah, so he was just, that just really rocked him. He reckons he hasn't seen one, but he believes that they're out there, and he reckoned that if I saw one, he didn't want to be living in a property with something like that nearby. And I mean, it wasn't on the property, it was close to, close to where the property was. So that's my Yowie.
40 years old, was camping with a whole group of friends in the Amamore State Forest in Queensland. During the night, the group was split up and some members were even lost. What followed is this account of a frightening Yowie attack.
And we've all decided to go out camping. Usually storms and that a lot in Australia, like summertime, and there was just a whole group of us. So we decided to go out to a place called Amamore. It's like a state forest, and it's out in the middle of nowhere, but it's in Queensland. But a lot of creepy stuff happens out there. So the girls and the fellas, we've all gone out there together, and you know how us fellas usually play jokes on the girls and stuff like that. So we're all out there, and the girls have walked off to go to the toilet or get changed, whatever they said they were doing, because they wanted to go for a swim. Anyway, the night's come in, and then all of a sudden we've lost a couple of people, So we've all sort of gone out looking, we've gone, what's going on? Have you just had an argument? They've gone, yeah, they've gone out there. And this place is really sort of creepy. A lot sort of happens there. So then you can hear like noises, heavy breathing. Next minute, this person comes out of nowhere. They're really scary, especially if you're in the middle of the forest, man, and you don't know what the hell it is, and you're running and you're lost and you're dark. Yeah, it's just darkness all around you. You're looking for your friends, and all you can hear is that. And you got that feeling, and then goosebumps, just slowly looking around. Your friend's gone. You want to get back to camp. You can't remember which way camp is. You're looking for your ribbons, your little things you put along the way so you can find your way back. You didn't.
I think it's kind of always been like in my knowledge, Bigfoot especially, people joke about it all the time, but I only started hearing like Yowie when I was kind of a little bit older, because you start watching those crime shows and they're like, the Yowie. Yeah.
I think going back to the early television programs, going back to when they started, there was always some story about around Christmas time or whatever, and they're talking about the Yowies instead of the normal Christmassy thing. Yeah, from 56, and everyone seemed to mention it. And I worked in the wool industry for a while, and shearers one of these odd people that like to tell stories, and they're completely untrue. But by Jeez, when you're out in the middle of the bush, it seems real, and that's probably how I've...
The first time I ever heard the name Yowie, I guess, was like when I was a kid. They used to have these chocolates, Yowies, which I used to love. They were like, they had a toy inside. That's sort of where I first heard the name Yowie. Bigfoot, I didn't really know about until a couple of years ago, honestly, because like growing up in Australia, especially with my family who are sort of very anti-American in Australia, we didn't really know a lot about that. We just always called it a Yowie or a bunyip, or the Aboriginal name, which I can't remember. But yeah, I was probably from the chocolates and just a few children's books that I used to read. Yeah.
I first heard Yowie possibly when I was really young. It was probably the more like commercialized. There was these chocolates called the Yowie chocolates, and they were kind of more cartoony. They kind of made fun of the fact of the Yowie as this mysterious creature. They were kind of like Kinder Surprise, you get a toy inside and stuff like that. And I remember as a kid, I used to like get them from my dad and stuff like that, but didn't really associate it with much. Bigfoot probably a bit later on, with seeing more the American concepts of Yowie and Bigfoot and that, and it didn't kind of sink into much later on, and stuff like that. And I was big into like nature documentaries and stuff like that, and you would see some like more obscure documentaries on stuff.
Not specifically, but I think like just when I was younger, you know, you heard of it, and it was just such a outrageous idea, like wouldn't we see more of them more often, that kind of thing. Like we've covered most of the world, like wouldn't we expect to see like a few Yowies here and there? But yeah, probably quite young. And
yeah, I kind of got like obsessed with it for a while, you know. I heard like a bunch of like stories, and then I started searching up just a bunch of videos and docos on YouTube, and I think it was probably one of my first years in high school, like year 7. Like I probably heard it before then, but I can't remember. But the last time I actually remember like first hearing it, yeah, it was probably early year 7, I think it was, and then I just, you know, started watching movies and stuff like that.
No, I might have seen something on TV, like reports of like animals, or like some sort of something that resembled like a human, but like, you know, lurking about sometimes, not in daylight and that sort of thing. I've heard things of this. I've never seen it before, physically, but I mean, I believe there is something like that looking around.
The Bigfoot I heard a lot on the TV in America, but I didn't know that we have in Australia until like, because I know my mate, he was talking about since 6-7 years ago. But we live in the same apartment, and we happen to rent in the same room, so he have his own room. I have him, like, we talk a lot about this, and he's like, yeah, sure, you're lying. You just try to make the things up. And he keeps saying like, okay, one day we're gonna go there, but we never get any chance until like 2 years ago, because we didn't have a chance to go up there because all the seals are flooding his property, and his dad was not happy or something. That's why we went up there, and that when I like, holy boy, this is real. This is not fake at all.
Yes, I used to read lots of books, watch documentaries, any of that kind of nature kind of thing I enjoyed. And it was probably in, I don't know, maybe fictional stories, something like that, you know, from America, that kind of thing, that Bigfoot always seemed to be in America. I think they called it Sasquatch or something like that as well. So, you know, I remember stories like that. And there's lots of children's stories about bunyips and yowies and all of that in Australian children's fiction. So I remember reading about it back then.
Whenever I was growing up, my sisters and my brothers always got me paranoid. When we used to go camping, my sister would say, watch out for the yowie. I'd say, yowie, what's that? And she'd say, he's big, scary, hairy. Sometimes they can be very nasty. You just don't know. Just always watch out for the yowie. Other people say it's just a warning to watch out for dangerous animals. It depends what country you come from.
I think, you know, I was younger then, but I'd like to think that I could trust my memory and I could trust what I've seen. I just hope that people will be more open to it. You know, they won't just shut you down when you're trying to explain your own experience.
Well, yes, because I've actually seen something, but I wasn't quite sure whether it was a yowie. I didn't know whether it was a bloke that had been stuck in the bush since the gold mining days, whatever.
I believe that there are things in our world that we haven't discovered yet. Like, for example, we've only traveled 10% of the world's oceans. You know, what else is down there? It's the same with the bush. you know, God knows what's out there. I mean, yes, civilization is taking over and we're destroying forests, but you know, who knows what we could find? We find new creatures every single day. I mean, they've recently found a new fish that lives below in the Mariana Trench. Like, who knows? I'm sure there's something out there. If not a Yowie, it's definitely a creature that we're still yet to discover.
I wouldn't say they do exist like 100%, but I am a believer that there is things that we haven't found yet, and you know, there's animals that hide, and we're always finding new things every day. So,
Oh, definitely, definitely. You couldn't make that up, you know? Yeah.
Well, I reckon from what I saw, yeah. So, it's kind of hard. It's hard to think that it does exist because, you know, with the amount of technology and stuff that we have, you know, you thought we would have actually found it by now and it'd be in public view, but it's tough. But like from what I saw, like I can't unsee that. So it's pretty, yeah.
I think so. I think so. I mean, I think they would be well camouflaged. They're not be something that's going to walk around in broad daylight. I would say like maybe they are like say around the bush area in the outback. Maybe they live like in some sort of underground cave or something. Maybe near like the watering holes and that sort of thing. But I mean, maybe people do know, maybe someone does know where it is. Like even the local indigenous sort of people may know, but they also may want to protect it and maybe don't want people coming in and sort of like, you know, investigating, sort of, you know, trying to find it, maybe scare it away as well. So maybe there is a reason why like there isn't too much information known about it. It should probably remain unknown, I guess.
It's, you know, when you look at it in the dark, you can see someone, a human, or the hairy human with like standing there looking at you. Do you know, is that real? Or is that fake? Is that real? Is that fake? But it's still like, I've seen that before. I still not believe it. I don't know, it's just like in the middle.
I wouldn't know if I'd say firm. I'd say there's a possibility, and I've done some research since, and yes, there possibly could be, because in that area, that north of Ipswich area, there's a lot of sightings, but there hasn't been enough proof. Like I haven't seen any evidence of like Yowie poo or things like that. So I know I saw something. I don't know what it was. But yeah, it obviously was enough to scare my friends.
Well, if you wouldn't want to be seen, there's a lot of things that exist people turn a blind eye to. There's so many different species on the world and in Australia, you just don't know. For all we know, they could be blended in with us. They might change. We don't know. They just fit in.
Yeah, I think I am. Because, you know, if it is like a sort of semi-intelligent creature, you know, what are they capable of?
Not really, because I think they'd look different to us, so they wouldn't perhaps get on the train or get on the tram or be walking along the street. I think they'd be a little bit scared to be among us. But perhaps if there was some bushland near, they might be just in there lurking and they'd come out at night. And
Amongst humans? I wouldn't say that I'm scared of the idea of a Yowie living amongst humans. Like it's a creature. I wouldn't say it even lives amongst humans. I mean, if I was non-human, I'd want to stay away from us as far as possible because we're just terrible creatures. We're a virus, essentially. So, you know, I don't see the possibility. Why would it want to be with us? I'm not scared at all. I think that it shouldn't be with us, that it should be where it's content.
Not really. I have some pretty hairy people in my family, so most of them are the friendliest people I know. And if I can spend a night with one and it didn't harm me, I'm pretty sure I'm okay.
Well, I mean, like I said, he was just like everybody else. So, I mean, he's pretty happy living his life, but, you know, if he was to kind of like assimilate, like, yeah, that'd fit right in.
Well, of course. I mean, that was around the corner from my house. You know, that's kind of a scary thought. So, but like in that moment, like when I first heard that growl, like that was one of the scariest moments of my life, because that was unlike anything I've ever heard. You know, it was scary. It was like a dog growl, but it was much deeper, much deeper, and like heavier. And it was just, yeah, that was really scary.
For now, I don't think I would be feeling frightened. I think there hasn't been anything reported of any unusual attacks or things like that. I don't think it has intentionally tried to harm us. And I think it sort of respects us. Like, you know, we have respected it so far. We have not tried to, you know, sort of invade its privacy, maybe go to its home and, I don't know, you know, do anything. So I guess for now we can sort of live together in harmony. So yeah, I don't see any reason. Yeah.
Well, I don't really mind though, because like in my friends, parents' property have all like chicken, cow, and everything. There's no animal die because of that or something. Because I think he lived in his own way of life, and then we live in our way of life. So we just come out every now and then to whatever's going on in the world. So I think the world, I'm thinking, there's no effect at all.
Not here in Melbourne, but in Queensland, yeah, I'd be hesitant, I'd be cautious when I'd be out there, but I'd probably be more scared of snakes than I would be of a yowie.
If I was by myself and I was in the middle of Wookala country past the Black Stump, yeah, I'd be petrified. Because I've heard a lot of stories and some of them are pretty scary. Like the drop bear. Have you heard about the drop bear? Yeah, well, a lot of people think it's just a legend or a fairy tale, but until it happens, you're gone.
I'd probably say everything you do is going to be scary to a human. So if you ever try to communicate, do it non-threateningly. Yeah.
Oh. Come and meet us. Come and have a beer. Gee, that's an interesting question. It's like the alien thing. If an alien landed in your background, you're not going to invite them because you don't know. But obviously, if they're sitting in the street going, I'm open to invite them in.
Would I have any advice for a yowie if I ever met one? You know what, I probably have actually. My partner is Maltese and he honestly is a yowie. The amount of times I have to shave him, oh God. Oh, he's gonna kill me if he saw this. But if I ever met a yowie, I would say just stay away from humanity. Stay away from us. Keep your mysteriousness. There are tribes that have not dealt with civilization ever, which is fantastic. I mean, now we have, you know, mercenaries coming in and destroying that sanctuary of theirs. when it's terrible. And so I would say to the Yowie that just stay away from us as long as you can. We're gonna take over sooner or later, but if you can stay away and be happy, then stay away and be happy. God, I wish I could.
Probably don't stare at people while they sleep. That is creepy. Say something, you know, even if it's a groan. I would like some, like, as long as I get over the initial scare, I'll be fine. But still, not knowing what was there is still a little freaky.
Yeah, I guess maybe for them to kind of take it slow if they're gonna approach us. Like, he was great, you know, he was polite, that sort of thing. So I reckon, yeah, just
Advice. If I met a Yowie, what would I say? God, I got no idea. I guess I would say I don't know. Well, first I'd probably say hello. You know, how you going? I'd probably ask him, like, do you try to stay hidden, or do you actually want to be known, or like, what's your plan? Like, what are you getting at?
I'm not sure. I guess I hope that the natural habitat isn't destroyed by anything. Like, I know there are things like, you know, mining and I don't know, sometimes deforestation. Hopefully they can continue living as they are. If not, maybe I guess they would be forced to come out into the open and then unfortunately be discovered, and then I don't know how they'd live. I don't know. I would see people sometimes even cage them. Maybe people would be scared of them, and that would be, I guess, horrible for them to be living in a very confined environment. So, I mean, that would be sad for them to live like that, but I hope that, yeah, if they do want to communicate with us, like, you know, it's done in a peaceful way, I guess.
Does Joey speak Australian or English? I don't know. I don't know, because it would be funny if you're walking during the day and it's like, oh, that hairy man was trying to say something, but I don't understand. If the Yowie speak human language or English, yeah, with that, what you are living right now, so that is your nature. You don't need to try to be one of us, because it's more drama we don't know what's like than what you're living right now.
The Yowies, wow. Probably just to keep to themselves. I mean, if you're out there, stay hidden, because once you're found, you're never ever going to have the life you've had so far, and it's going to be really challenging, and there's a fair chance there's going to be a bounty hunter out there who's going to try and kill them. So, you know, try and keep it low as long as you can, because, you know, your life's important just like every other animal and person's life.
Yeah. I'd tell him, I'd look at him and say, hey, I'm nothing like them. I'm different. We're going to get along just fine, buddy. Yeah.
There are a lot of things in the Australian bush that hide from us, particularly night creatures. So I put Yowie in to that category, because they wouldn't necessarily come out during the daytime, because they're probably just as scared as us of us than they are.
I guess going back again, you know, saying that he's just like us, really. Like, if anyone out there, if they do come across a Yowie, like, it's fine. Like, you don't need to be scared. Like, actually get to know them a little bit, you know, and you'll start to realise they're a lot more like us.
if you see one, don't approach it. pretty much, you know, because that was scary. I didn't want to go anywhere near it, and I'm glad it didn't come anywhere near me. So, yeah, my advice.
Mythical creature, Bigfoot, the snowman. Who knows? It might be out there. I mean, it's been a legend for years. It's been out there for years. Where to, like, you know, it's got to come from somewhere. Yeah, so you just never know.